Sir, would you share any material or notes from the previous classes?
Okay, what kind of notes you required?
I mean, all these examples that you're teaching. So, would you be able to share any kind of notes or?
Okay, so basically I did not created the GitHub account, so I will create it and I will push all the changes into the GitHub. So I think you can access there.
Okay. Okay, sure, sir. And any textbook or something that you can recommend, sir? I mean, after the classes that we can follow? Any book or any author in specific?
Yeah, sure. I will let you know the other information.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so good morning everyone. So today we are going to discuss about the overloading method. And yesterday we have identified so different kinds of method with return types and setting the value and the parameters and constructors we already discussed in the last session. Okay, this is also one of the important session we are going to discuss in the today session. And basically whatever we are going to discuss this session, so it will continue the discussion of the same, the methods and the classes what we discussed in the last session. Okay, so in Java, it is possible to define so two or more method within the same class, and it's going to share the same name and only the differences. The parameters are going to have difference here. Getting the point? In the same class, we are going to come up with the same method with only the difference here, different parameters. The different parameters how we are going to write. So this is important here. Get in bed. And these kind of methods we are going to call it as a overloaded methods here. Overloaded method is nothing but the name of the method should be the same and only the difference here. So type of the parameter and order of the parameters are different here. So type of the parameter is nothing but so we may come up with a different data type, either the string or so into float, long, double something, or we can come up with the order of the parameter. So first method is taking the two parameters. So we may come up with a second method with the three parameters or one parameter. So again, we cannot come up with the two parameter with the same type here. Okay. So this is so applicable in Java. So we'll try to define the multiple methods with the different two parameters here. And now, so basically, once this particular ordered method is invoked here, what happens is, so Java internally, it is going to use the data type or the number of arguments, so that we are going to pass to determine the which method we need to call here. Okay, so how it is going to determine? So based on the type of the argument or order of the number of argument what we are going to pass here. So based on this, the Java is going to determine which method we need to call internally. Okay, so this is important here. So let's have a simple example so that we'll get understand how this particular overloaded method will work internally. And here now what I'm doing here, I'm going to come up with the overload demo. So this is the class I'm trying to create. And now if you see the particular class, we come up with a different method. So all the methods I'm not writing with the return type here. Now observe, so void test. So this is the one method I'm defining, test method. So it's not expecting any parameter. Now what we can understand here, so this is nothing but no parameters. Getting the point? Now, so what we can understand here, int here. So this is the one more method we are defining. So this is the one more method we are defining. And now if you observe the differences between first method and as well as the second method. The first method is not expecting any parameter, but the second method is expecting one parameter. Okay, so what is the type of this particular parameter we are having? That is called int. Okay, now what we can do, so we'll try to provide the a value. Getting the point. So we are going to pass this particular a value, and same way the particular a value I'm trying to print here. This is the one method. And now you can see, so one more method. And now we cannot write the same method one more time here. What we can do, we may come up with a different parameter list here. So now if you see int A, int B, getting the point, int A and int B. Okay. So now the last method, now what I'm doing is I'm trying to define the return type as a double, and the name of the method I'm trying to write same, and the parameter is expecting double D, and here now what I'm doing is, so we want to return something here. Now first what we will do, the, the D value will print here, and later we'll return D. Getting the point. So here what we can do, it is a D value. Now observe carefully how many methods we defined here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 methods. Getting the point. So 4 method we defining. The name of the method is same. So if you see in all the methods we come up with the same name here. So test here. Getting the point. The name of the method name is same, but only the difference here parameters here. The first method is not taking any parameter. Second parameter is taking one parameter, and the third method is taking 2 parameters, and fourth method, if you see, it is the taking only one parameter, but here the type is different. Here what we are passing, int we are passing, and here what we are passing here, double we are passing. Getting the point. So how the compiler will treat here, based on the type of the parameter or the number of parameters here. And here the whatever the return type we are providing here, so it is not going to uh, identify the return type what we are trying to return here. So it's ignore the return type right now, but only it will focus on the two things, number of parameters and the type of parameters. Okay, so this is important here. Basically, if you understand this, because in the real-time scenarios, so we are also defined the multiple overloading methods here. The multiple overloading methods, it will do the operation same, but only the difference here, it will come up with different parameters here. So for example, if you observe carefully, so some cases we may call the test method, right? So if you observe, it is the same method. Now just imagine, instead of test method, what we will do, we'll come up with the same method. So save it, we are not passing anything. Save method, we are not passing anything. It will try to save the all the object whatever we are going to have in the current instance here right now. And the second one, if you see, we are passing object here. What kind of object we are going to pass? So along with that, we may come up with the multiple objects here. Getting the point. But so if you define like this, the same method with the multiple times, now what happens is, so from the based on our required locations, so we may call the specific method here. Some cases we are going to call this particular save method, or some cases we may call this particular save method here. Getting the point. But internally it will perform the same operations. Only the difference here, the parameter based on our requirement, we are going to pass the parameter. Okay, so let's run the same example with the main method. So inside the same class, I'm trying to define the main method. And now what we need to understand here, so we need to create an object. So what is an object we need to create? So that is called overload demo. So overload demo, I'm trying to create an object, and it default constructor we are calling. So if I'm not writing the constructor, the compiler will provide the default constructor. Okay. So now after demo, so now what we are trying to do, we are going to call this particular test method here. So this is the first test method, second one, third, and fourth. Getting the point. So these are all we are having here. But basically, what we need to understand here. So second one is expecting 10. So third one, 20 comma 30 we are calling. And what about this particular fourth one? So basically, fourth one, if you give 40, So if you give 40, now what happens internally? Again, this method is going to call the same, and this method also is going to call the same. These two are having what is the type of value we are passing here. This is important here. What is the type of value we are passing here? Line number 22 as well as line number 20 here. If you observe, if I'm going to run this example, now a value 10 and a value 40. Now what do you understand here? So these two methods, line number 22 as well as line number 20, these two methods are calling on the same method that we implemented the line number 7. How we are identifying it? The println statement, what is the value it's printing? A value. So the A value is printing for the both methods here. Right. So if we want to call this particular test method, which we need to pass the double here. Now what we can do? Something we should provide the double related values here. Now if you observe 40.0 I'm passing here. Now observe carefully. So at this time the D value is printing. And earlier, so the last statement it is called the A value, because the last statement is called the one more time whatever the method we implemented on the line number 7. But right now, so whatever the method we implemented, line number 13, the particular method is calling. The particular method is calling. So for example, now here what we need to understand here. So the test method we overloaded 4 times here. Getting the point. So whatever the test method we defined here, this particular test method is overloaded 4 times here. And first one, it is not taking any parameter. Second one taking one parameter. So third one is taking 2 parameters. And fourth one, it's taking 1 parameter, but the parameter is double parameter here. Getting the point. And here, what we need to understand, the fourth version of this particular test method is also returning some value here. But here, what we need to understand, the return types, getting the point. Whatever we are trying to return the types here, it's not going to play a role in our overloading, the overloading concept what we are discussing here. Okay. So now what we can understand, whatever the return type we are returning here, so that we can ignore at this time here, because we are not focusing on the return type here. We are focusing on the type of the parameter as well as the number of parameters we are having here. Getting the point. And now if you observe carefully, so one more example, I'm trying to comment out this. The line number 7, whatever we implemented, I'm trying to comment out. But if we observe, if the line number 7 we commented, now what we need to understand, the line number 20, what is the test method we are calling and what is the value we are passing? Integer value we are passing. But if we observe, the integer related method is not available. Getting the point. So I commented the line number 7 method, but still the line number 20 we are not getting any error here. So why we are not getting any error? Any idea?
Is it taking the line number 13 method, sir?
Okay, if it is take, how it is converting? So whatever you suggest is correct. If the int is not available, it will try to look up the another data type. So which is the nearest matching data type here. So basically what we need to understand here, so it will try to use the type conversion, and here it's going to come up with the automatic type conversion. Getting the point. So how it is going to convert? First it is look up the test method which is going to take integer related value, but right now we don't have. So once it is not available, now what happens internally? It will look up for the nearest data type here, so which we can convert automatically. So what is the data type we are having right now? This particular double. So whatever the int value we are providing, that it will converting into this particular double. So observe carefully the output here. So whatever we are printing the line number, sorry, the second output here 10. But now if you observe the second output here, so 10.0. Why we are getting 10.0? It is converting from int to double here. This is important here. Getting the point. So whenever we are defining the method, if the appropriate method is not available here, So what is the nearest data type here? It will convert the particular value, whatever we are passing. Okay. So this is important. We need to understand here. So if you are not looking for this kind of automatic type conversion, now what we can do? So directly we can define the method like this. Directly we can define the method like this, and we can call the appropriate method. Otherwise, internally, because it is the automatic type conversion here, so we are not going to call explicitly the type conversion here. So this is important here. Okay. So any questions? The regarding this particular overloading methods here.
So sir,
Sir, if we
online. Yes, okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
so my question was, if there was no double method also, so will that give an error, sir?
Definitely.
Okay.
See.
And my question is double test. If we pass two parameters there, then
Same thing. We may get error only. Okay. If you see here, I'm trying to pass one more. Right now, if we pass something, so we already familiar because we have a method. It will call. Okay. And if we provide something like this one, so now you can see we are getting an error. Line number 20. So here you can see the error. The method test int is expecting, but we are passing int comma double.
And now it is not converting this value into int again, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? So basically, this will perform only whenever we are having the single type here. But when we are trying to come up with multiple times here, so we need to write explicit the appropriate parameter here. So whatever the data we are trying to use, so that we need to come up with one more method, and we can define int comma double.
sir, if on line number 10, if we if we give only one parameter int b, in that scenario,
So we can give, but the problem, whatever we call earlier, this method will go to this particular method only. It will not look up the double data type.
yeah, then it will go on line number 10, not on
Yes.
13.
Yes,
Okay.
because we already identified, right, this method. First, it is giving the highest priority on the same data type.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, so now we'll move on to the constructor overloading. So same way how we are writing the method overloading, same way we are going to come up with the constructor overloading here. Okay.
One more then.
Yes.
So like we are writing void test, or what's the difference if we write public void test or normal void test?
Yes. See, this is if I'm not writing any the public or private here, this will call it as a default one. Okay, so
Are
the
they all
default,
default?
sorry?
No. Are they all method are default here?
Yes, whatever we define, these are all the default methods. Okay, the scope is little difference between the public and this particular default. If you're not writing this particular public, so this section of code we can access only within this package.
So sir, can you please define why we are writing default method? Any difference between the normal method or default method? Why? What's the reason?
Okay, sorry, where I will go. See, basically we are going to discuss this access modifier information, but now understand here. So see the difference. If you observe, whatever we implemented here, I copy the same thing. I did not modify anything here. But now you can see, so line number 9, 10, 11, 12, we are getting all the errors here. Why we are getting? Okay, so if you see the error, the method test from the type overload demo is not visible. Can you see the error here? So what is we are getting here? So whatever we are providing the test method, it is not visible here. Why it is not visible? Because, so what is the package we are using? Something like it is a different package what we implemented here. Getting the point? So now one more question. So observe here I'm trying to come up with the public. Okay, so public void test. Earlier we got the 4 errors. Now right now understand here how many we are getting. Only 3. Getting the point? Earlier we got this error also, but now the error is resolved. Only we are getting on these 3 because still these are all the 3 methods we define as a default one. The first method we come up with the public. So this method, whenever we are making public here, this method we can access from any location. So there is no restrictions. But when we are not writing any access modifier, so we have a different access modifier. Not only this particular public, we can use the private or we can come up with the protected. That we can discuss in the upcoming session. But if I'm not adding anything, so this is, we have some restrictions here. So that is a restriction is giving me an error. Because we are outside of the whatever the restriction we are having, because of that it is giving me an error here. So now it's clear.
Yes, sir, got it. So default method only we can access in the same package.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so now what we will do, so we'll try to come up with the constructor overloading. So same way like how we implemented this particular section, so same way we are going to come up with the constructor overloading. So let me write the constructor overloading here. So to write the constructor overloading, again I'm moving into the box class. So if you see how many constructors we define here. So first default constructor we define, and second we come up with the 3 parameter one constructor here. Now what I will do, so I am going to write one more constructor here. So this is the one more constructor, and basically this will not take these many parameters. So I'm trying to pass only length here. And now what I will do, so this particular length here, okay. So whatever the value we are having for this particular length, I'm trying to initializing into all these 3 particular variables, because these are all the 3 instance variable we are having. I'm going to initialize the value. The same value I'm going to initialize into these 3 variables here, because we are passing only one value. So either you can call this particular constructor, or you can call this particular constructor, or you can call this particular constructor here. Okay, so this is this section of code what we are going to call here. This is nothing but we are trying to come up with the overloading constructor here. So based on our requirement, we can call the appropriate constructor. We can pass the values here. So not only this, now what you can do, you can come up with the one more constructors as well. How many constructors you want, you can create. So double depth here. Now what I will do, I will remove this. For the depth, I'm trying to provide one more value. So this is the one more constructor which is expecting 2 parameters. So 1 parameter and 3 parameters, and so this constructor is not taking any parameters here. So these are all the 4 constructors we defining. Getting the point? These are all the four constructors we are defining. Now what we can do, so whenever we are coming with a box demo, now what we are doing is the first constructor we are passing this, and the second constructor I'm going to pass only 12. And now what I will do, So one more constructor I'm calling. Box 3, here I'm going to call with something like 45. Getting the point? So how many constructor we have? These 3. And fourth constructor I'm going to pass nothing. It is an empty. It is nothing but the default constructor we are going to call. And once we call this, now we'll call box 2, box 3, as well as box 4. Right. Now run this same example. Now observe the default constructor is calling. So volume is 3000 and the second one is 1728. So another one is 6480. So one more we are getting as a minus 3000. So what we can do, so we are not understanding which object it is called here. So what we can do, we'll pass this message here. Box 1. Let me modify the message here. Now we'll understand here which object is returning which value. So box 4 is returning minus 3000. So why it is returning? But what we implemented in the box class, the default constructor we are providing some minus values here. So this particular minus values we are not overriding here. So what is the best way to override here? So you can use the whatever the method we are calling set values here. And what is an object we can go for it? Something like box 4 here. Getting the point? So this particular box 4 we can use before going to call the value method and write some message here, like what is the value we want to pass here. Something like 13, 16 and 19 we are passing. So now what we can do, if I'm going to run, now you can see we are getting some positive values here. Okay. So what we need to understand carefully, how we can call this particular constructor here. This is important here. This section of code we are going to call it as a overloading constructor. Now you can see first we are calling the default constructor, second is expecting 2 parameter, and the third is expecting 1 parameter, and fourth one is expecting 3 parameters. Not only this, if you are interested, you can come up with some more constructors with different parameters and the type of the parameters. Any questions on this particular constructor overloading? Okay. So if you are not having, now what we will do, so instead of passing this particular primitive data type here, so how we can come up with a object as a parameter? This is important here. So earlier, now what we are doing here, we are trying to come up with a double or something like a int or float something. So these are all the primitive data type that we already aware of from the beginning of this particular sessions here. But what we need to understand here, so how we can come up with the object as a parameter. Object as a parameter is nothing but, so here I'm having the constructor. I'm going to provide the different object here. Because if you see here how many objects we created, so we come up with 4 objects. So one more constructor I'm going to create, and the constructor is going to expect as a this particular reference, something either box 2 or box 3 or box 4, or if you come up with one more object box 5. So that I want to pass here, not these particular numbers here. So whatever you are passing right now, not this particular primitive data type. I want to come up with one object. Okay. So let's have a simple understanding this. Now what we will do, I'm going to create one object here. So I'm trying to write one object as object parameter. And now, so once we define this particular object as a parameter, now what I'm doing is into a comma b. Okay. So we have 2 variables I defined. And now what I'm doing here, I'm going to come up with a constructor. So basically it is a default constructor we are defining it. And now what I'm doing here, into a comma, or we can come up with the into I comma into j. A is equals to I and B is equals to j. Sorry, getting the point. So A is equals to I and B is equals to j. Now what we need to understand here, I'm trying to come up with the one method. The method it will return the boolean type here, and the name of the method I'm trying to come up with as a equals. So equals to method I'm trying to write, but if we observe here what I'm passing here, so this is I'm trying to pass as a object as a parameter. So simple O. Now observe carefully. So if you see, this is the one method we are writing, that is the name of the method called equals to, and it is trying to return the boolean value and is expecting. So it is a one more time. So as I explained earlier, whenever we are trying to create this particular class is a one type here. Getting the point? So this is the custom type we are defining here. So earlier, before this particular class, what are all the types we are having? Something like the primitive data type along with the string related data type. But once we define this particular class is also one data type here. Okay. So it's nothing but the class is where we are able to pass as a parameter. So this is the type we are providing, and this is the reference variable. Now what we will do, so using this particular O, we are going to check the condition. So what is the condition I'm going to check? So observe carefully. O dot A equals to A, and O dot B equals to B. Getting the point? Now if these values are matched here, now what I'm doing here, I'm trying to return true. So else what I'm doing here, I'm trying to return false. Now observe carefully. So this is the object we are passing, and this is the reference variable. So now you can see reference variable how we are accessing O dot A. Getting the point? O dot A equals to A. So this is the another object we are passing. So another object again we are calling O dot A, and the current A we are checking here. So this is the right side. This is the current value we are checking, and whatever we are passing as a parameter, we are matching it. Getting the point? So don't confuse it. This B and this A. So we'll try to look up the current values in the object as a parameter. But if you see, this is also we are passing the same object here. So wherever we are implementing this equals to method, but the whatever the object we are passing is same type here. Okay. So don't confuse here. Now what we will do, we'll try to come up with a main method. Now, so we'll understand here. Now what I'm doing here, I'm going to create a multiple objects here. So OP is equals to no object parameter, and here we don't have default constructor. Getting the point? We don't have default constructor. We are having parameterized constructor here. So what is the parameterized constructor we are having here, which is expecting int I comma int j. Okay. Now what I'm passing here, so 100 and 200 I'm passing. So this is the one object we created. Second object here, something like 45, 65. Okay. This is the OP1. And one more object I'm passing here, OP2. Sorry. Yeah, otherwise it's fine. O2. Or we may come up with the OP. This is the understanding. Okay. So now observe carefully what we are doing here. So this is an object parameter we are creating one object, and this is the second object we are creating with a different value, and this is the third object we are creating with different values here. Okay, so now what I will do, I'm going to call this particular equals method. I'm going to call equals method op equals to op1. So now how we can call here? So this is important. Op dot equals to op1. Okay. Now how this method is going to call? If you see, this is the current object reference. So whenever we are calling the current object reference op, what is the value we are having here? 100 comma 200. And here op1 we are passing. The op1. So what is the values we are having? 45 comma 65. Now if we come back to this particular equals method, what we need to check? So this particular A contains the what is the value, and this particular A contains the what is the value. So can you please let me know if anyone knows? So I just want to check what is the value of this particular A and what is the value of this particular A whenever I'm trying to call this method.
So the line number 4A, we are assigning the line number 6A, that value.
Yeah, that is fine. See, basically this we are calling. See, this is the object parameter, so it's expecting two parameters that we are passing here. Okay, so the values we are getting I and j that we are initializing into a and b. So this is clear because these are all the instance variable we are having that we are initializing with this particular constructor, and here we are passing the values and we are calling the two parameters constructor, and we are creating an object here. But the question, this whenever we are calling this equals to method, so what is the value of this particular o dot a and what is the a value, and same way o dot b and the b value? How we are going to check this?
I think false.
No, I'm not asking about it's going to return true or false. Just I want to checking the values here.
For first time it's 100, 200, A and B value.
Okay,
Second time it's
wait, which a and b values we are going to get? O dot a or this particular a?
right side A, only A.
Okay, this a we are passing 100. Okay, the b you are saying 200.
200. And
Okay.
and next time I think it's 45, 65.
So here only the a and b we are getting 45 and 65. But what about these values?
O dot A is the 100.
Yeah, I think it's the same value.
Okay, why we are creating 45 1? Why we are passing op1 here? Basically op1 is one more object we are passing or not? First question. Okay, see, observe. I will explain here. Basically, we have three objects here. Okay, so OP, OP1 and OP2. But here, how we are calling the method? First, this is important. Basically, earlier methods, how we called. If you see demo.test. So demo is the object of this particular overload demo. This is the reference of this particular object here, and with the help of the reference, we are calling the method. Okay, and come back to here. So what we are doing? OP. OP is also one of the reference of this particular first object parameter. So using this OP, now what we are doing here, we are calling the equals to method. So whenever we are calling this particular equals to, what is the value of this particular OP will contain? First question. Okay, the OP is contain 100 comma 45. 100 and 200, not 45. Okay, So now we understand OP contains 100 and 200, but we are calling the equals method. So whenever we are calling this particular equals method, so here the A and B, whatever the A and B we are having, the A and B we are going to get 100 and 200. Okay, so now we clear that A value as well as this particular B, and we need to focus on this particular O dot A and O dot B. So why we are calling O dot A and O dot B? What is the O basically here? O is a reference variable of this particular object type. And what is the reference variable we are passing here? That is called OP1. So this OP1 is going to play as a O here. Getting the point? The OP1. Again, if you see, what is the value it's contained the OP1? OP1 it's contained 45 and 65. Now what we need to think here, because we are passing as a OP1, the OP1 it's converting into this particular O and O dot A. Now understand O dot A values, what is the value we are going to get? That is called 45, and O dot B we are going to get as a 65. Getting the point? Because O is a reference variable of this particular object type. And what is an object type we are passing? That is called OP1 we are passing. So basically, this is simple one. So if you pass this we already discussed here. OP is a reference variable. Okay, before going to call this, now I will explain this. So imagine we have a 3 objects. Getting the point? So this is we are calling as a OP, and this is we are calling as a OP1, and this is we are calling as a OP2. Okay, now what is the value we are having? So here A value, because A value, sorry, and B value, what you are passing? Because this is a heap memory. This is important here. This is a heap memory we are creating here. So A and B, and here, so we are going to have one method also. What is the method we are having here? Something like equals to methods also. Okay, what about this particular OP1? OP1, A value, how much we are passing here? So how we can identify? Constructor. This constructor will identify the values. So what we are passing here, the constructor, it will call the line number 5 constructor, and it will initialize the values here. I value is initialized into A, and J value is initialized into this particular B. Okay, now what is the value of this particular A? 45. What about this particular B? Something like 65. And here also we are having equals to method. And what about this particular OP2? Again, here we need to check 100, and B value 200, and equals to method we are having. So why we are having the equals to method in the each and every object? Because we are creating same type of object multiple times. Only the difference here, the instance variable values are different. Getting the point? The instance variable values are different. Right. Now understand here. So this is important here. We already identified OP, what is the values, OP1, what is the values, and OP2. Okay. So now come back to here, this equals method. So we are passing OP dot equals. So we are calling this particular equals method here. And here, so whenever we are calling this equals method, the line number 9 is trying to execute here. Okay. So OP contain A and B values here. What is the A and B values? The OP contain 100 and 200. But the problem here, this is important. OP1 we are passing. Whenever we are passing parameter as a different object here, so this particular O now is going to act as a OP1 here. And here O dot A. O dot A is nothing but here OP1 dot A. OP1 dot A and OP1 dot B. What happens internally? So OP1 dot A, what is the value we are having? And OP1 dot A, what is the value we are having? Now these values we are comparing into this particular values here. Getting the point? These values we are now comparing into this particular values. Okay. So to understand more, now I will put a breakpoint line number 10 here. Now what I will do, I will run this example in the debug mode. So I'm keeping this diagram as it is here. Any error we are getting? Why we are getting an error? Okay, I think it did not save this example. So now let's see. So it is calling this. Now, okay. So I think here we cannot understand. Let me clear this. I will come up with a one more time. So here I will create. So we come up with a multiple values here. So imagine OP, OP1 and OP2. So A value, sorry. So here A value 45, 65 and A value 100 and okay, OP1. Okay, OP, object parameter. And now, so observe here. So what we need to understand here. So line number 10, it is stopped here. So from where it is calling it, that we need to check first. Getting the point. So you can go to here, you can click on the below one. Now you can see from the line number 17, we are calling. So line number 17, we are calling. Now it is stopped at line number 10. Getting the point. So line number 17, what we are passing. So this is important. So here, first with the help of this particular OP reference, we are calling the equals to method and we are passing OP1 here. So we'll check the OP1. What is the value of this particular OP1? So here you can identify here. So A value 45, B value 65. Okay. So don't confuse this. So right side section you can see this variable here. The right side section we may understand here what is the value we are having right now. Okay, OP1 A value 45 and OP1 we are having 65. Now what we need to understand, OP 100 and 200 we are having. Getting the point. And the OP2, so 100 we are having, 200 we are having. Okay, now so what I'm doing here, if you observe carefully, so this is your passing here. Now O. So if I expand this, what is the values we are having? 45, 65. Now, so here we need to check this particular this. So see 100 and 200. Why we are getting this 100 and 200 here, and why we are getting the 45 and 65? Any idea? Okay, so basically, so what we need to understand here, whatever we are passing this particular OP1, whatever we are passing this particular OP1, now it is converting into this particular O. So the values we can easily understand 45 and 65. Okay, and now whatever we are passing this particular OP, that is converting into this because we already identified these are all the instance variable. And now what is the this is pointing here? Basically this keyword is giving me the current object reference. What is the current object reference we are having? That is called this OP, because with the OP only we are calling the method called equals to method. So this is the current object, and here it is a parameter we are passing, but it is not a current object. So this is important here. Now it's clear. Any questions? So what is the value we are calling this, and what is the value we are going to get on this A? Still anyone having any questions? Okay, so now if I'm going to compare this O dot A, if I'm going to right click, Where is the watch? Now you can see. So here we'll remove this. Now you can see in the expression. So this is an expression. So this is an expression we need to highlight here. O dot A. O dot A. What is the value we are getting here? 45 we are getting. Getting the point. O dot A we are getting as a 45. Okay. Now what we need to understand regarding this particular O dot B. So again I'm going to add into this particular watch here. So the below one, now you can see 65 we are getting. Okay. What we are getting here? O dot B. So here what we are passing? 45 into 65. So it's matching or not? Getting the point. Now the OP1 it's converting into the O, and O dot A we are getting 45 and O dot B we are getting as a 65. And what about this particular A? Because this is the instance variable. The instance variable values we are having 100 and the instance variable value B we are having 200. Because of what is the reference we are calling, with help of which object we are calling the method, that is important here. Now you can see if I'm going to the line number 11, it is returning false. Why? The values 100 equals to 45. It is not going to match. It is not going to match here. So this is, we need to understand carefully. So now you can see, so we are getting as a false here. Second one, I'm printing this particular OP. Okay. So is it clear the how we are passing object as a parameter? This is important one, because in the like upcoming classes or in the real-time scenarios, we are going to pass objects as a parameter only, not the primitive test. So like most of the time we'll come up with objects here, but some cases we are going to pass as a primitive type. This is important here. Okay. So any questions regarding this particular object as a parameter? Okay. So one more I want to explain here. If this particular condition is failed, now what I will do? So I am trying to come up with this, but before this, so I'm going to modify the values. So observe carefully here. O dot A equals to something like 78 I'm passing. Getting the point. So I'm trying to pass 78. Okay, again I'm going to run the same example. So now observe carefully, the values are going to change here. The A values are going to change here. Now what we are passing basically, so that we already identified 45 and 65 we are passing. 45 and 65 we are passing. But right now, what we are doing here, so O dot A is equals to 78 here. Whenever we are initializing this particular value, now, so if I'm going to expand this, observe carefully. The value is updated here. Getting the word. The value is updated O dot A 78. Now if I'm going to this OP1, now if you expand this OP1, the value here also it's updated. 78 and 65. But initially, what is the value we created? 45 and 65. Getting the point. So why it is updating in the OP1 as well? Because we are updating in the O level, like if this is the object parameter we are updating here, but the same value is affected in the OP1 reference as well. So why it is affected in the two cases? Any idea? No. Okay. So what I will do, I will come out of this example, and here this is out OP1 I'm printing here. Okay. And same way, here I will print this particular O. Getting the point. Here I'm going to print this particular O. Okay. Now again I'm trying to run this example. Again I'm trying to run this example. Oh, sorry. I think it will print outside. Okay. This I want to call before calling this. Okay. So observe carefully. Now here only you'll get to know what happening. So if you see why we are having same here. You can observe this carefully. Object parameter at the rate 1f36ce something. Whatever the value we are having in the two location, it is returning same. Why it is returning same?
Because we are changing this OP reference into O, this O reference.
If we change the reference, so it should change, right? So basically, here we are not changing anything. So we are passing here the same reference. It will go to this O also. Okay. So you are not modifying anything. The object location. Basically, this way we can understand here location where this particular OP1 values it's going to store. Getting the point. So here you can see. So in the two cases, it is pointing to the same location. Now, what you need to understand here. So this is one heap memory we are having. So here, this is pointing O, and this is also pointing our OP1. And here we are having A value, and here we are having B value. Getting the point. These are all the two reference variable. Whatever we are having O and OP1 is pointing to the same object here. Okay. So this example we'll discuss in the last session. Whenever it is pointing to the same, once modify from this location, it will affect it into this, and if you modify from this O level, it will affect it into the OP1 also. So that is only it's happening right now. So because earlier we come up with the 45 and 65, now the values are updating into the 78 and 65 because of the line number 11 what we are modifying here. The line number 11 what we are modifying. So this is important here. Basically, just we are passing here. So whatever this particular references we are having here, this references we are passing here. This particular reference we are passing here. Okay. So this same reference will go to this particular O also. And based on the same location, it will look up the whatever the values we are having inside this particular heap memory. The same values it's going to match the condition. Okay. Anyone having any questions?
Sir, so first is OP1 created or O is created?
See, O is not an object here. So just whatever we are creating the OP1, just we are passing here. Getting the point. We are not creating any new object there.
Okay. So first we have an object OP1 created, which is pointing to values 45, 65. Then
Yes.
this value is overridden to 78.
Yes, only one value we are overridden.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So any other questions? Okay. The same example now, what we will do, we'll try to pass into this particular box class. So if we go to this particular box class, I'm coming with the one constructor here. Okay. So this particular constructor is expecting like this. Getting the point. So this is the name of the constructor, and the constructor is expecting one object as a parameter. What is the object we are passing? Same. Again, the current object only we are passing here. So what we can do here? So we can check this particular, like we can initialize the value. So width is equals to height is equals to box dot height. Okay. So box dot depth here. So this is we are having the constructor here. Now what we can do? So whenever we are calling this particular constructor, how we are going to call here? So we may come up with the fourth constructor with the box 1. Now observe. Whatever the fourth object we are creating here, now what I am passing here? Box 1. Again, the box 1 is also here reference here. Getting the point? So box 1 here, we have a reference here, the reference we are passing. Now, box 1 as well as box 4. Here we are going to have same values here. Why we are going to have same values here? Because whatever the values we are passing to the box 1 object, the same values we are initializing into the box 4 also. How we are initializing it? Now observe. So basically, this is the box 1 we are passing here. And box 1 dot width, what is the value we are having? That is called this 15, 20 and 10 here. Now if we call this box dot width, it will pointing to 15 and this will pointing to 20 and this will pointing to something like a 10 here. Getting the point? And now what you understand here? So whatever the 15 we are getting here, the 15 we are trying to store into this particular width and as well as same height and depth also. Now what we are having same here, whatever we are passing this particular box and the current object, the both are having same values here. Both are having same values here. Right now, so if I'm going to run, let me save this also. Right now, if I'm going to run this example, box 1 and box 4 will be same. But here, why we are getting different? Getting the point? We are expecting the box 1 and box 4, we are expecting the same value. But here we are getting some different. Any idea?
Set values method.
Yes. So again, we are calling set values here. So if I'm going to run the same example one more time, now you can see box 1 as well as the box 4, we are getting same here. So this is the same, the object we are passing into the constructor, and the same way, so we'll create a one method here. We can pass whatever the object we are having here, object as a one parameter here. So that section we'll discuss in the tomorrow session. And once we completed this particular object as a parameter, so now we'll come up with one important example, whether Java is a call by value or call by reference here. So the simple example we are going to discuss in the tomorrow session. And once we familiar this, how we can return the object. So as of now, we did not return any object so far. Just we are trying to return the integer related values. So now what we will do, we'll come up with returning the object here. So this is the one more example we discuss here. Okay. So same way we'll try to continue with the upcoming sessions here. So any questions regarding our today's session?
Sir, do you have recorded sessions available, sir?
So that I given already where I'm going to upload. So you can access the playlist.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so if you don't have, we'll continue tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.